Today is August 16th, 2023. My name is Jo Reingold, and I'm here interviewing Phil Rosenfield. Hello, Phil. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
First of all, I would like to know what led you to being the president of the JCC. What kind of things had you been involved in prior?
Really not a whole lot. I wasn't involved with hardly anything. I was fairly young in my JCC experience here, and I ran into the former executive director and just kind of was asking him how are things going here at the J, and that's when he told me that they were not going very well. I worked out here. I was not married at the time, and played basketball here, and he told me that there were some issues, and I said, well, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. And next thing I knew, I was asked to be, not necessarily be on the board, but just get involved. And I got on a couple committees. Finance committee was the one I got involved with, and that's where I saw the real difficulties we were having. And from there, it led me to buildings and grounds, and then onto the board. And from there, it just kind of blossomed, or kind of went nuts after that. So,
What years were those?
gosh,
Do you remember?
It was easily 20 years ago. Maybe, well, before I was married, it's probably about 25 years ago. So it was quite a long time ago.
And what years were you actually president? When did you serve?
It's probably been 8 years since I was, so it's probably around 2000 it was definitely 2012 and 2013, 2011, somewhere in that 2-year period.
Okay.
I remember that because that was the year that we beat Alabama. Artie, of course, is an Alabama grad. I'm an A&M grad. And I remember bringing it up to the board that it was the board meeting after we beat Alabama in 2012, where I told the board we will not give Artie a hard time about this. So
Okay.
I just remember that.
Can you remember some of the leaders that you worked with during your tenure?
John Rosenberg was on the board at that time. John was very instrumental in helping me with the implementation of our governance policy. We had, at the very end of Alan Shore's term, we passed the governance policy, and then right when I started my term, that's when we implemented the governance policy, which was very thorough, very detailed, and that was something that as soon as I read it over the summer before my first board meeting, I knew that I was going to need some assistance with that. And John's an attorney, very detail-oriented, so I asked John to help me get that started. So John was one of the people that really helped me in my term. Of course, the past presidents, Danny Prescott and Alan Shore, were very instrumental. Mike Hirsch was a former past president that gave me a lot of assistance. Kenny Goldberg also. We had a lot of really good leaders to help guide us as we went through.
Can you tell us briefly what was the relationship between the JCC and the Federation during your time?
It was a really good relationship. We had a lot of crossovers between board members on each of those. It was at that time that we really needed the Federation's, well, we were coming out of the time to need the Federation's assistance because we had finally gotten our financial house in order. So by the time I took over, when I became chairman of the board, so at that time we changed the name to chairman of the board, which is very important because it happened during Danny Prescott's term, but we changed it because it did specify exactly what we were, because we were going from a very active board in day-to-day activities of the J to becoming more of a professional board. And so the position of leader of the board, chairman of the board, became very important because it's important to understand that the president or chairman did not actually run the J. We actually ran the board. It was our job to run the board. And so implementing that governance policy was important to change the way the board operated and the way the staff operated. So those are just very important things to do, and you know, from there it just went.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah, well, it's important. So Danny was, I don't remember if Danny was called chairman of the board, but again, we also had to change all our bylaws at the time. You do something like that, you have to change the bylaws. So Danny I think it was Danny got changed. Danny passed it, and then we passed the bylaws, and so Alan may have been the first one that actually was chairman of the board. And so, you know, we did a lot of changing of the bylaws from the time that Danny started. That was the other thing that we did was very, very important, was changing our fiscal year to become, instead of being from the beginning of the year, to start it when essentially the end of the school year, because so much of our programming is tied to school events. So, you know, just small things like that.
Does it still go June to June 1st or June 30th?
It was and May 31st is the last day of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
And of course, and that was one of the things that Danny did. I think Danny did that because that was a way for him to shorten his tenure. So.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. We give him a hard time about
Yeah,
that.
right.
It was a benefit.
Do you remember interacting at all with the secular Dallas community, the non-Jewish community?
Quite a bit. One of the things that I was heavily involved with was the preschool. My kids went through the preschool. One of the programs that was make or breaking the J was the preschool, and so you know, you can only get so many Jewish children into the preschool. You had to supplement that with the secular community. So we made an effort to, without losing our identity, promote the preschool to the community around here, and it was very, very successful. So it was one of the biggest things that we did was hire Tara as the preschool director, and she took it from once Tara took over, it just skyrocketed, and it's continued to skyrocket. So.
It's wonderful. Did you have coalitions with other organizations in town? Things that you worked directly with them?
Only the biggest coalition was when we had Maccabi. My year was when we approved having Maccabi. It wasn't going to happen for another 3 or 4 years, but that was the beginning of starting those relationships, especially with the local security forces. You know, the FBI, Dallas Police Department. You know, because we were going to have a huge number of people in here, and we needed to secure the campus. And so those coalitions started at Maccabi, and those coalitions continue to this day because of the importance of security to this campus.
Right. I worked Maccabi games. It was wonderful. Great experience.
It was
Yeah.
it's time to do it again.
Yeah, yeah.
Now that we've got Maccabi going back again nationally, we need to get Maccabi back here.
Right. Speaking of nationally, can you remember any events nationally or internationally that happened during your era that affected your term?
We had a fairly quiet, security is always an issue here. Really didn't have a whole lot that hit my term. We may have lost United Way funding at that time. It was right around that time where we lost United Way funding. That was a big hit. But we had started putting ourselves on solid financial ground, so we didn't need their funding. We were able to compensate, let's just say that. And of course, that was when the Federation was beginning to pull back on their funding, rightly so, and they changed their model to be more guided towards specific programming as opposed to just general funding. So.
Okay, all right. What changes did you experience in the JCC personally?
So lots of. I honestly think we did a lot of work during my term to make the changes that are happening now happen. And a lot of those things were things that you never saw. Changing the governance model, changing the way we do business, changing our funding. We set up capital reserves here. We set up a capital budget. We set up a new mission statement that focused on the things that were important to us. We got a strategic plan passed that to this day still is being followed. Those are things that we set forth, and that all of those changes came from Alan Shore's passage of the governance model. What he did was, we didn't understand it at the time, but what he did, and I didn't understand at the time, what he did was set forth a model for us to operate as a board, which is operate more strategically, less tactfully. So we spent more time with strategic planning. You start looking at all of the buildings, all of the construction and all the projects that are going on here directly related to the strategic plan. It was, we need to get a new pool, we need to improve this preschool, we need to improve the tennis courts, we need to improve the front entry, we need to improve the all of these things were done strategically through the board and then passed down to staff and then funded through staff and board development. So.
I was just going to ask you that. How did that, do you think, directly impact membership? Did it increase membership and also directly impact financial support for you?
That was so the problem with the J was they did not have a track record of success. And so you can't fundraise, you can't grow membership without a track record of success. And so this started with, 3 or 4 chairmen before me, setting up, first, getting our house in financial order. And that was scaling back our staff, setting up the programs that were profitable, and then moving them forward. And then from there, it was being able to go out and raise the money, because you then have a track record of success. And so that's what, all of a sudden, you had a preschool that was thriving, and so the preschool went out and looked for money to renovate the preschool and to build the natural playground. And so, and that leads right up to the brand new pool that we have. That's it's a direct result of that. Putting money back into those programs. You can fundraise for that when you have a track record of success. Very
good. Who were some of the key people on staff that were during your tenure that you worked with?
Well, there were, I say this, Artie, of course, was absolutely critical because he was able to make the hard decisions, which he did. There were a lot of hard decisions when we were trying to get our budget balanced. But the most important person, and Artie will kill me for this, was Carol. Because Carol told us where we needed to cut, what we needed to do to get to where we could operate. We could operate at least neutral. And so she gave us good numbers. She continued to give us good numbers, and we were able to then make decisions based on those numbers. It wasn't until Carol got here that we really began to understand where we needed to go, what we needed to do. And from there, she could guide Tara, who was critical for preschool, Laura, who was critical for camps. And then we've had a number of people come through our facilities management program, or facility management department. Those people involved, they were all good, but they all came in with a daunting task, which was taking care of all of the deferred maintenance that we had on this building and this property. All that deferred maintenance had been building up over, not years, but decades, and all needed to be cleaned up. That deferred maintenance through a host of facility managers, I would say probably got completed maybe 5 years ago, probably 4 years ago, got to where this building is now. You're not seeing systems that are 20 or 30 years old past their prime. They're current. Mm-hmm. So.
Besides the things you've mentioned, is there anything else that you can think of that you're especially proud of that you accomplished?
Probably. Security is the one thing that, while I didn't do it during my term, I did. Scott Cohen, I told Scott that was the one thing I didn't get to that needed to be addressed, and we needed to get a security committee going, and he got that going, and then helped put me on it as a co-chair of it. But probably the thing that I'm most proud of is our dedication to facilities management. This facility is I'm in the real estate business. This is a wonderful piece of real estate. And when I got involved with the J, there was a lot of talk about moving this facility north. And it took me years to try to, not me alone, but a lot of other people, to convince the community as a whole that what we had here was a gem and it needed to be reinvested in. And part of that reinvestment needed to come in upgraded facilities, improve, new, better, et cetera. And I think over the last 15 years, we've done a really good job of improving this facility. We have a long way to go. That pool, I'll be honest with you, one of the main reasons I got involved with the J is because my kids, and I tell the story all the time, my kids were starting in preschool. And we bought a house that didn't have a pool. So our family was going to use the J pool. So I got involved, one of the main reasons was to improve that pool. Well, here it is 20 years later, my kids are in college, and that pool finally got done.
Right.
Yeah. So that while people say, well, gosh, it took so forever. Well, if you know the J, you know how things work at the J. But I'm very, very proud of that pool. And just the overall emphasis, it's important that our mission statement says what it says about facilities, that we are state-of-the-art facilities. That is a key part of our mission statement.
I know the JCC is going to be is starting a building fund again for capital campaign to add on. Do you have any visions of what you'd like to see done here? What blueprints you'd like to have? Those are, the pool is the big thing. That's the big thing. I would like to see indoor tennis courts, but I'm not sure those are a priority. I really would like to see a fixed seat theater. That's been a major project. I would really like to see the 20,000 square feet that is down below where our old fitness center was. I really would like to see that being used. It's a lot of square footage that is just been not used, and I feel like we can put better use to it. There's some other things. I mean, there's just a lot of things we can look at, but I like the way that the board has operated the last 2 or 3 years, which is we're going to take a project by project by project. We're not going to do one big capital campaign. We're just going to continue to look at what we need and then do that project, fundraise for it, get that done, and move on to the next one. I like that approach. So what would you like to be involved in the near future here at the JCC?
I would like to continue to, I'm still on the Buildings and Grounds Committee, which I would always love to continue to be part of because I think it's important. Other than that, I kind of want to stay out of the way, let other younger leaders get involved, take their hand at it. I would like to, just continue to look at the strategic approach that we take to enhance the campus. That's the biggest thing, most important thing to me, is this is a great piece of real estate, and I want to continue to make it even better.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Phil, for being here, and I'm sure you will continue to be a mentor to some of those younger leaders, because that's important, right?
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Sure. Thanks a lot.